Hi guys. So I'm Gabi. I'm a full stack engineer at Sequence, and I've been in Web3 for like 5 years, and I worked on pretty much everything. So from front end, back end, smart contracts, SDKs, some DevOps, and I think this gave me a nice chance to see how the developer thinks and what we need in point of like developer experience in all of these fields. So today I'm here to talk about Web3 DevX, something that is not very popular, I would say, nowadays. But I think it's like really, really important. So let's see how to build better developer-focused products. Does this work? Oh yeah, okay. So what is DevX, right? Okay, thinking about it. It's how a developer feels when he's trying to build with your product. Now, yeah, developers and feelings, well, yes, we do have feelings. And that's how I look when I work with a tool that has bad documentation. And to get more serious, a dev should be able to use your tool without having to ping you or support. A lot of teams forget that good DevX is actually free marketing. And that's because if you have good DevX, they just like to talk about your tool. They like to promote it. Especially when you talk about big influencer devs, I would say so. Like, I don't know if any of you know Patrick Collins. He's a big dev and big image of the Web3 space. And he does talk about great tools. And yeah, you can have the most powerful tech, but if it's painful to use, then it won't go anywhere. And yeah, no one will know how to use it. Now the problems are, so this is taken from a Web3 library called Vim, or VM. So it says that the current state of low-level Ethereum interface abstractions lacking at least one of the following areas, which is developer experience, stability, bundle size, or performance. And it's a quadrilemma, as they like to say. Now, I think developer experience is the most important, but also stability, because I wouldn't use something that is not stable in production. And bundle size and performance, like they are also important, but not so much. Maybe bundle size is very important if you use the tool on the client side, on the front end side. Now, currently Web3 DevX still leaves a lot to be desired. And I want to start with an example, which is ethers. Does anybody know about ethers? Did you use the library? Okay. So it's the most used Web3 library right now, but it still lacks a lot in point of DevX. Like the documentation, it's awful. They have almost no guides, no examples. And yeah, the docs are just huge. So if you go there to learn how to use the tool, it's like very hard, especially if you don't have already Web3 knowledge. It has been around for 8+ years, so it has a massive community, and it's super stable and mature, that's true. But because it's so big and old, it does feel outdated. And I don't think they will add a lot of DevX improvements because it's so big, and it will take a lot of time for them to change the code, to update the docs, to create guides, to create migration guides, and basically teach you, the developer, how to use it. They had an upgrade, which is from v5 to v6, but it didn't feel like an upgrade. It just added a few useless changes, I think, because they didn't cause any improvement on the user side. There were mostly internal things for them. Now, I like to talk about Vim as an example for good DevX. I'm not paid by them, even though I wouldn't say no. But they are, as they say, an alternative to Ethers, Ethers.js and Web2.js with a focus on reliability, efficiency, and excellent developer experience. I think that's very true. And mainly that's because they took a different approach. So Ethers, as a Web3 library, they took this approach of using providers and signers. Now Vim, instead of using providers, they use clients and actions, and instead of using signers, they use accounts. There are specific reasons why, and you can find that in their documentation. Now we can clearly see that new devs are starting with Vim because it's so much more readable, so much more easy to use, and even the OGs, like the old devs, some of them are switching to Vim, for a very good reason. I like to say that Vim is like more than an NPM library, and that it feels more like a language or framework. And that's because they introduced a very clear and readable and beginner-friendly way to interact with the blockchain. And the team behind it didn't just build a library, they built more than that, because once you learn Vim, you also know how to use their React hooks library, which is WAGMI. And I say that because it uses the same concepts, like actions, wallet clients, the same code structure, the same documentation structure. And yeah, it's really easy to use it once you know Vim, and also with this small thing here, OX. It's their newest library, which is like a few months old, and it allows you to pretty much have lower level control or just build your own library with it. So Vim is built with OX, and then WAGMI, it's built with Vim. So yeah, they just build their own framework ecosystem. Once you learn Vim, we already know everything, I guess. This is a screenshot from the repository of examples. So you can just see how many of them are here. So let's say I'm a developer and I want to do something on ENS. I'll just go here, I'll find this folder ENS, and I'll just find how to use Vim to do stuff with ENS, which is very powerful and very easy. And I just love this. This is a screenshot from the bundle size. So basically it takes 31 kilobytes from Vim to just start with it. It takes 83 for Ethers and 157 for Web3.js. This is a comparison for the iterations, the speed it takes to encode ABI parameters with all these libraries. And you can see just how fast Vim is related to the others. This is a tweet from a software engineer at Abstract Chain. So he basically said that Vim just released a new version that improved the polling time, because previously they were waiting 4 seconds, which is great for Ethereum, but is not good for others, like others layer 2s that are faster. So right now they added this new version where they listen to the block time, and it's actually faster based on the chain. So it's another great improvement. Now, what does excellent DevX means? Where, first of all, it's high quality docs with step-by-step guides, examples. But yeah, keep it simple. Don't make it too big, right? You get bored when you see bad and big documentation. Fully typed code, like TypeScript TS doc. I will explain later what that is and how it works. Then have demos of the tool that show how to integrate it, how to use it. Be compatible. So Vim is compatible with ERC-4337, with 7702, with ZK Sync, OP Stack, and more. So basically what this means is, if you want to send a user operation with Vim, it's really easy. So they are integrated with providers like Bioeconomy, Pimlico, and so on. And you can, with a few lines of code, just send a user operation. And the same thing with EAP 7702, so you can sign authorization and send a transaction very easily with a few lines of code. Be active with the community on X. This one might feel maybe not so much needed, but it's actually very, very important because it builds trust. It builds trust with the developers that are using your tool. It also lets them talk one to another, maybe in the comment section, and help each other. And it just shows that you are active and that you keep working on it. Now, optimize the bundle size. Yeah, make your library tree shakeable. This is also very important. And what tree shakeable means is, if I want to use just 3 methods from an SDK, I don't want to use the entire size of the SDK. I just want to use, whatever I need to use for those 3 methods, like that logic. And this is what tree shakeable means. And don't use too many dependencies, because if there's a problem with one, there's a problem with yours too, and you are dependent on too many dependencies. Yeah, that's why they are called dependencies. Be modular and always up to date with the latest trends. So Vim has this concept of experimental features, and basically they add things that are not yet ready in their docs, but they allow you to learn how to use them before they get released. So when they get released, you already know how they work. Of course, like some things might change, but you already have the idea of how they work. This is a video of like me. I don't know if I can pause this. I don't think it was to pause, but yeah. So yeah, you see how I'm using the Vim SDK, and I want to use this send transaction method, right? So I write send transaction, whatever, but then at the time when I hover over that function, it shows me documentation and a real example on how to use that function. So I don't have to go to the documentation and find there how it works. Maybe it's not even documented with a bad SDK. Let me play it again quickly. So yeah, you see I type send transaction. Now I just hover over it. I get the explanation, what it does, etc., the example. I copy paste it, and this is all done with TSDoc, which is very powerful, and also allows you to just, if you want, you can quickly generate documentation only based on this. So you see the function is declared here, and then you write the documentation inside the SDK code. And then if you want to generate fast docs, you can just run a script, and then it generates you the documentation based on that. Now, how to build great tools? So the best way to build a library is to use a documentation and test-driven development approach, which leads to predictable APIs. Now, what documentation-driven development means is basically if you don't document a feature, it doesn't exist. And if the feature is documented incorrectly, then it's broken. No one knows how to use it except you. If it works in your code, then it's great for you, but no one knows that it works if it's not documented, right? Now, good libraries are also fully typed, so this is what I was showing before with TypeScript documentation. Explain arguments, examples, and always aim for 95+ test coverage. Please don't push to production code that is not tested. That's very bad. And yeah, that's kind of it. You can follow me on X or LinkedIn. So if there's any questions, let me know.
Okay, cool. So I'm familiar with test-driven development, where you write tests, you start running tests, and then you get an error back which tells you what to implement. How would you apply this to documentation-driven development?
Maybe I said it wrong. Documentation-driven development is something, and then the test-driven development is something else, right? So documentation-driven development is like you don't push a feature if it's not documented yet. So if it's not documented, it doesn't exist. But then for test-driven development, it's like you don't push a feature if it's not tested, right? And the process is like you test it. I mean, you write the feature, you test it, you see if it works well, you go back, then test it again, and then so on, right?
Like test-driven development, it's in the name. You write the test, and then you write the implementation. And I was kind of expecting like documentation-driven development. Maybe you start from how you expect the feature to run from a documentation point of view, and then you write the implementation.
No, for documentation-driven development is like, you don't push a feature if it's not yet documented. And that's the concept.
Can you enforce this somehow with CI workflows or in some kind of way?
Yeah, so TSDoc that I was speaking about before, oh, I can't. There was a video, so you can write TSDoc for, oh, okay. Yeah, this one. Right. So so yeah, this is a recording of me using a function from Vim. And you'll see I hover over it, right? I see this documentation. This is TSDoc, that's TS/doc, this is how it's called. Now, if you write this in your SDK, you can create CI, CD, whatever scripts that just after you push the feature to a branch, let's say, or you merge to master or something, it generates the documentation automatically based on this, right? So you don't have to write the docs manually. But this is mostly used for like the internal team. So your colleagues see, or other people from BD or whatever, see like a high level of how this works. But then for users, you do want to write something more complex, right? With guides and stuff, because this is like more technical. Yeah, that's how it's done. You can do that.
So Gabi, bringing that a little bit in, sort of normie like me, is that a type of, you can classify it as a hallucination checker? So you know the hallucinations are not there, so you know everything is there.
Hallucinations?
Yeah, often like, I don't code at all, but I work with some AI companies that use a hallucination checker to make sure that the computation is correct compared to what the code says.
Yeah, I think. I had never heard of the term hallucinations in code or programming, but I mean, you can hallucinate with a feature if it's not documented, right? So you don't know how it works. So
that's what I mean. So it's checking for the hallucination.
You do just crazy stuff. So yeah, that's, I think, can be called as a hallucination.
As I said, it's to dumb it down to my own level, because coding I don't know. So it's the way for me to understand it a little bit better from my part.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you. Do we have any more questions from? Oh, we have two already.
Thank you. You talked about ithers, like ithers v5, and I had a question. Let's say you have a project. Would you sacrifice like a week to rewrite everything in Vim and continue developing in Vim, or would you continue the project with ithers?
Yeah, so it depends how big the project is, but you said a week, so I will assume it takes a week, right? I will, yeah, if it takes 1 week. It usually takes more. Like if you have a bigger project in ithers and you want to completely rewrite it in Vim, maybe it's not even a thing based on like how much time it takes, but sometimes it's like not possible because maybe you have a package and then you have a backend or something that relies on ithers types. So if you change from ithers to Vim in the SDK, then you also have to change it in your API, in your backend, to be compatible with the types that Vim uses. So, but yeah, I will sacrifice 1 week, yeah.
Between V5 and V6 of Ether, they dropped the big numbers to use the native beacon. That way they can, the bundle size gets smaller. But if you wrap, you have lots of usage of big numbers, then indeed there is the question of the time you're going to have to refactor your code to drop the begins and blah, 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 is maybe also worth fully migrating. That's a good point, but yeah. And if I may to answer your question about the doc before, like in the doc-driven, so I can maybe share what I do. So what I do with the test doc, as he explained, I use that to automatically generate the references on the website. You know, like I export those text docs to Markdown, and then on the website I use that Markdown for the list of references. But next to it, as he said, too, I also write a bit of human readable explanation. You know, you kind of need the both, like the things that everybody understands, but somewhere where you can find all the reference and all the tricks and that you need.
It sounds correct to you, right, Gabi? I've read everything. Perfect. I don't know anything of it. So he's coming up next. So now you have to stay to give him another question afterwards.
So amazing talk, Gabi. Good job. I just want to ask you about what do you think about project versioning, and do you believe that we should have some standards for that? Because we do have standards for general things like how do we commit things on GitHub, for example. But is there a standard, or what is the best practice, to do project versioning?
So there is a standard for NPM libraries, right? For SDKs. So the versioning is like, how there are 3 numbers. So let's say I have version 1, but version 1 is version 1.0.0. And the standard is any patch or any bug fix. It's like you change the latest digit, like 1.0.1. Then it's every new feature, you change the middle digit. It's 1.1.1 now. And then any breaking change should increase the first one, so it's 2.1.1, and that's the standard, so that you know how in SDKs in the package JSON, if you declare a version, you can use the tilde. Oh no, I don't know how that's called. It's like the triangle without the bar down. It's like you use your package JSON will automatically upgrade the version when you do a npm install. But it won't upgrade to the latest one, like from 1 to 2. It will only upgrade to 1 from 1.1 or 1.2 or whatever. So that's a security, so that you never automatically upgrade to a bigger version, because that will break your app, because it has breaking changes. Yeah.
I hope that answered everything. Do we have any more questions from the audience today? Then I want to say thank you, Gabi, for the amazing masterclass in DevX, and thank you for coming on stage.
Yeah, thank you.